Yeah. It's got to get a little beat action going on. Yeah, let's get into it. So, before we continue with our series, we're going to do a little reaction, response type of thing. You
It's
know,
called a pseudo killer's drive-by.
by Cedrick Ortega. So, we're going to talk about some logic and some supernatural. He's got a real nice presentation for you. Yeah, we talking about James Cassel. This is a response to James Cassel. So, without further ado, we're going to get right into it. Let's go.
James,
But before we do that, before we do that, I need y'all to like the show. I need y'all to share the show. And if you haven't subscribed, I need you to subscribe to Pseudo Killers and the Community of Skeptics. So let's go. Cedrick.
Thank you, Juju. Yes, James Cassel, you've been looking for my attention after you lost that debate. By all standards, ask anyone in the debate circuit who watched that debate, you lost. Subsequently, you lost against Pan in the official debate. We had a discussion, and instead of accepting your errors, you try to double down and you expose your flawed logic and reasoning, right? And I'm going to share my screen to get into my presentation. But before I do that, of course, we're going to hear from James himself, in his own words, the arguments that he's making, right? So without further ado, let's get James's argument on the table first. Yeah, let's hear what James is saying. So we started the discussion, and this is at the beginning of the discussion, ladies and gentlemen.
Are you playing something? Because we can't hear it.
You can't hear it? Oh, damn.
No, nothing's playing on this side.
Okay, my bad. I was supposed to be playing something. Let me see if I can do that, because I want everyone to hear what he is saying. So I'm going to share my screen. Yeah. So let's see if you can hear it now. It's time and space and everything within it. Can you hear that?
Are you playing something now?
You can see what's on the screen. Let me see if it's going to play when I hit the play button.
Yes, I see what's on the screen.
That's outside of time. Can you hear that? We can make no attributes, make no claims, because of course outside of reality. Now, as for logic,
make logical claims, sir.
Logic relies on the four fundamental forces. Logic is confined to exactly reality. So to make claims of the what exists outside, or can possibly exist outside of time and space, within and using the framework of logic, which is confined to the four fundamental forces, is illogical.
Logic is not confined to time, matter, and space. You're making that up, sir.
Yes.
Give me a source.
Every concept that you have,
give me a source.
Logic is confined to reality.
Time, matter, and space.
So he wants a source, and he claims that that isn't reality. Next, his whole argument is based on this premise.
There's no way around that. If the universe has a beginning, it's contingent because anything that begins to exist didn't have to begin to exist. Something had to cause that. You can't just say, "Oh, it just popped." It's
Okay. And here, his idea that logic and reason is
necessary cause that is outside of time, matter, and space. But science is confined to time, matter, different ways of proving these things, right? If you want to prove anything within the natural world and give a naturalistic explanation for anything, but if you want to talk about something that is beyond nature, you go to logic and reason.
so
Necessary cause.
claims, and finally is trying to misuse what is a scientific theorem or a mathematical theorem as if it as if it's evidence. Here. Come on, play.
Known as the Board, Guth, and Verlinken theorem, right? This theorem was posited in 2003. The title of the paper, anybody can look it up. Inflationary spacetimes are incomplete in past directions. And this paper says very clearly that any universe that is in a constant state of expanse cannot have an eternal past. That is the liberation of this mathematical theorem. Okay, you have what's known as the Board, Guth.
This theorem only supports the fact that our universe began, Big Bang. So no one's arguing against that.
Proof.
Matter of fact.
Okay. So, okay, go ahead. Keep teaching.
A theory is just based on reasoning from actual facts. The facts are true. The facts we have proof of. But the reasoning we do in between, that's what makes it a theory. A theorem ain't based on that. It's based on physics and mathematics. And physics and mathematics give you a proof, not a theory.
So there is no physics and mathematics when you're calculating the Big Bang.
Proof.
All right. So y'all see the obvious flaws that we're dealing with in terms of reasoning. So now let's get back to the presentation where I addressed these things. He wanted sources. Now let's deal with his claims and let's put this nonsense to bed, because this ignorance is beyond anything that we should be having to deal with in the community. And these are the dudes that want to debate every single thing that they can think of beyond reason. Why James Cassel is dead wrong, about logic and the supernatural. Fix this. Oh, sorry. All right. Introduction: the misuse of logic as a substitute for evidence. James Cassel claims that logical arguments, you heard it, particularly those that are valid or sound, can deliver truth about realities beyond space-time, including the supernatural. This assertion is not only philosophically naive, but it reveals a fundamental misunderstanding of the distinction between logical form and ontological fact. A logical argument, no matter how internally consistent or formally valid, only outputs conclusions that follow if the premises are true. But truth in the real world, truth about ontology, causality, or metaphysics requires empirical support, especially when the subject involves claims about the about the nature of reality, the origins of the universe, or beings that supposedly exist outside the known cosmos. Cassell's leap from valid syntax to existential certainty is both unwarranted and epistemologically reckless. Let's break this down further using his preferred framework, the cosmological argument. Before that, let's delve into the conversation you heard first. Reality is space-time. There is no accepted philosophical or scientific framework in which reality refers to or meaningfully include what is outside of space-time. Done. The whole conversation ends right there. But let's go further. James Cassel claims that we can refer to, imply logic to, or claim knowledge of realities outside of space-time is not only unsubstantiated, it is fundamentally incoherent by both philosophical and scientific standards. You wanted sources, my son, you are going to get them. Scientific framework. Reality is space-time bound. Modern physics, particularly general relativity and quantum field theory, defines the fabric of reality as the four-dimensional manifold of space-time. All known physical laws operate within it. Key points. Space-time is the stage upon which all physical phenomena occurs. Concepts like energy, particles, causality, and even existence are meaningful only within this space-time framework. Lawrence Krauss, what is outside our universe is a question that makes no sense because space and time themselves began with the Big Bang, a universe from nothing, 2012. Stephen Hawking, asking what came before the Big Bang is like asking what is north of the North Pole, an interview in 2010. No physical theory can model or make predictions about something outside space-time because there is no coordinate system, no energy, no causality, no meaningful framework in which to define anything. Stop. More scientific support. You wanted sources, Sean Carroll, the Big Picture in 2016. Carroll emphasizes that science is concerned only with phenomena within the domain of empirical measurability, which presupposes space-time structure. Max Tegmark, I brought it up in our discussion, Our Mathematical Universe 2014, while Tegmark proposes that the universe itself is a mathematical structure, even he insists that the structures relevant to physics must be instantiated within space-time to be meaningful. Conclusion, in science, reality always refers to entities or structures that exist within the observable and inferable boundaries of space-time. The idea of a reality beyond space-time is non-empirical, untestable, and unscientific. Philosophical framework. In philosophy, you heard him in philosophy. No coherent ontology beyond space-time. In metaphysics and epistemology, reality typically refers to either the world as it exists independently of human minds, realms, the world as it appears or is constructed in experience, phenomenology, or constructivism. But even these frameworks assume the fundamental conditions of experience, causality, extension, sequence, all of which are only meaningful within temporal spatial context. Philosophers on outside of space-time metaphysics. Immanuel Kant, Critique of Pure Reason. time and space are a priority in intuitions. They are preconditions for any possible experience. We cannot conceive of any reality outside them in a meaningful way. A.J. Ayers, Language, Truth, and Logic, 1936. Any metaphysical claim that is not empirically verifiable is literally meaningless. Outside of space-time is a non-verifiable metaphysical assertion. Wittgenstein, Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus, whereof one cannot speak, thereof one must be silent. Proportions or propositions that refer to things outside logical space, for example, space-time, are nonsensical, James. Nonsensical, James. So even from a philosophical standpoint, outside of space-time is not a valid reference. Not a valid reference for the term reality. It's either incoherent, which most of the things you were saying were, or nonsensical, depending on the analytical tradition. Let's continue. Formal logic cannot bridge this gap. The equivocation fallacy. James equivocates between formal validity, a property of argument structure, and ontological truth, a property of existence. I keep telling you, your epistemology is off. A valid argument about unicorns doesn't mean unicorns exist. Likewise, a valid cosmological argument doesn't mean its conclusions describe reality, especially if it terms outside time, uncause, because they have no reference. There is no coherent, testable, or meaningful definition of reality that includes or even allows for entities outside of space-time. Claims of the contrary, such as those made by you, James Cassel, are metaphysically confused and scientifically meaningless. A waste of my time to even have these discussions with you because they're scientifically meaningless. Debate you why you already lost. There is nothing for me to debate if this opening of our conversation, you are so far that you're scientifically meaningless. You were referred to in the previous slide as incoherent or nonsensical. It would be a waste of my time now, wouldn't it? There is no empirical access, no operational framework, no ontological coherence, and no formal semantics that can render outside of space-time intelligible in any theory of reality grounded in philosophy or science. So you're making it up, you're flim-flamming, or you're scamming. But either way, you don't know what you're talking about. Cassell's cosmological argument structure. You just heard it, the necessary cause and the cause and the cause. James Cassel often presents a variant of the Kalam cosmological argument structure that follows. Everything that begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist. Conclusion, therefore, the universe has a cause. No, you see, they did this theorem. This theorem supports the fact that 13.8 billion years ago, the universe expanded from a singular hot, dense state. You refer to the subsequent study that even explores the vacuum. Did they go beyond space-time? No, they can't. He typically extends this with additional premises. This cause must be outside of space and time. What we just read on the previous slide, when anyone refers to outside of space-time, even in a philosophical sense, you see how these arguments fall apart, the reasons why people who understand this stuff don't even pay attention. Only the immaterial must be outside of space-time. And then the assertion, the big assertion, only an immaterial, timeless, spaceless, personal mind could be such a cause. Based on what you make that assertion, because this assertion is assuming something about of time and space, which we have already rendered as nonsensical or scientifically meaningless, incoherent. Not me. I'm not using ad homs. That's the actual what you are. Therefore, a supernatural mind, for example, God exists. That the assertion, and we understood that you cannot do that with regards to outside space-time. This appears to be syllogistically valid argument. However, validity alone does not make a sound or truthful argument. Didn't I try to explain you that? Told you to slow down. Every single premise, except possibly the tautology of the conclusions follow from the premises, are either empirically unjustified, metaphysically speculative, and conceptually incoherent. They made it up. And even then, it don't make sense. It's a bunch of flim-flam foolery. Because maybe the words are going over your head. Premise one, everything that begins to exist has a cause, philosophical and scientific analysis. This premise is a generalization rooted in classical human intuition and everyday experience. We keep telling you, science is counterintuitive. I appreciate the work that the ancients did, but it was purely intuitive, which we understand. However, scientific advancements, particularly in quantum mechanics, have demonstrated that such intuitions do not apply universally, especially at the quantum scale. And if we're talking about the rapid expansion of the universe and we go back to the singularity, what are we dealing with? We're dealing in the realm of quanta. In quantum field theory, particles such as virtual particles can appear and disappear in what is known as vacuum fluctuations, seemingly from nothing, in the sense that they are not causally determined by preceding events in the classical sense. Your concept of causality has died there. It is a metaphysical claim at that, and we now have hard evidence that that concept of causality is not a necessary one like you posit with this claim you're making. The argument has always been your position of causality. Lawrence Krauss, A Universe from Nothing, 2012, argues that quantum mechanics allows for physical creation without classical causality. Sean Carroll, Why is there something rather than nothing? Discusses how causation is a concept tied to temporal experience and may not apply pre-Big Bang. Do you see, when you're talking about causality, it is within the four fundamental forces. I explained you, they break down in the singularity. You cannot make these claims, and we have evidence to the contrary. Graham Oppy, arguing about God, provides philosophical critique of cosmological arguments. Moreover, the concept of causation itself becomes incoherent when extended to the realm devoid of space, time, and matter. To claim causation outside time is to assert a concept that logically depends on temporal relations, thereby committing a category fallacy. Bro, you are not ready to have these conversations with me. You can't debate me. You don't understand these simple things which I was trying to explain to you. Debate me?
By arguments from reason, I mean arguments against naturalism or naturalistic, or sort of evolutionary naturalism conjoined with evolutionary theory. So arguments against it, which claim that somehow or other considerations about reason defeat those theories. Probably in most cases because they somehow, it somehow turns out to be self-defeating. Like you end up, if you commit yourself to naturalism and evolutionary theory, then you just don't have a good reason to do that. Or it's sort of somehow, by the lights of reason, it's self-defeating for you to do that, or something along those lines.
meaning you're a bunch of cowards. You're afraid of reality. Premise 2, the universe began to exist. Cassel assumed that the universe had a temporal beginning, a finite starting point, after which everything came into being. This is based on a misunderstanding of Big Bang theory, which described the evolution of space-time from an early hot dense state, not necessarily an absolute origin out of nothing. Creation next ex nihilo, right, is a religious concept. Again, keep telling, no, it's not from nothing. It's from the singularity. On singularity, four fundamental forces break down. In that singularity, we can't go beyond the singularity. You're making claims about the singularity that we cannot make. In fact, many cosmologists and theoretical physicists reject the idea that the universe had a beginning in the classical sense. When I told you so, you almost lost it. Models such as Hartle-Hawking's no boundary proposal or eternal inflation suggest that the universe may be temporally finite, but still not begin to exist in a classical cause and effect sense. But you can't wrap your head around that because you're so spooked out. You can't. That state, we can't talk about it in a matter of time. That's hard to understand. That state, that hot dense state, we cannot talk about it as a matter of time. Hawkins, Stephen, and Hartle James, Wave Function of the Universe, Physical Review D, 1983, proposes a no boundary model where time behaves like space near the beginning. Yeah, just isn't. Sean Carroll debate with William Lane Craig, 2014, your hero, explicitly states that cosmology does not imply a temporal beginning necessitating causation, because this whole argument that is a causation is necessary at the beginning of the cause. And no, in the debate, Sean Carroll, maybe you don't know who that is a theoretical physicist. In his debate with William Lane Craig, stated clearly causation is not a requirement. So why are you arguing causality when it has long been debunked? Cassell's second premise, therefore, collapses on the weight of both the scientific nuance and philosophical misapplication. You're talking about philosophy, you don't even understand those premises. The leap to bind as cars. See the cow jump over the moon? That's the type of leap Cassel is making. The most egregious logical violation in Cassel's reasoning lies in his claim that the cause of the universe must be a mind. This is not an inference supported by evidence, but an arbitrary metaphysical assertion that smuggles in theological assertions. We keep telling you those arbitrary metaphysical assertions. First of all, it's arbitrary because you are just attributing what feels good to you to this so-called mind. Metaphysically, because in reality, there is nothing there. And we know that metaphysics is all about the realm of the imagination. They're making it all up. And it's an assertion. So let's slow it down again. It is an arbitrary metaphysical assertion that smuggles in theological assumptions. The properties he assigns to this supposed cause, immaterial, timeless, spaceless, and personal, are not deduced from prior premises. They just boom, out of that way in the conversation, they kick that in and want to stamp you with it in the face as if we're dumb. They are simply imposed. There is no mechanism or epistemic pathway by which one can deduce the existence of a mind from the abstract concept of a cause. It's cause, mind. And the cause itself, it is an assertion because you can't tell me nothing what happens outside of space-time because the four fundamental forces fall down there. The concept of a cause is only a requirement within space-time where the four fundamental forces produce what we see today. I know pseudo killer audience is right there, and they're like, well, yeah, the boy dumb. He's slow. We heard you. Everybody heard you. You need me to play it again? You need to play your own words again? Words. Mind itself is a phenomenon inaccessibly linked to physical substrate. Inextricably linked to physical substrate, namely brains. To speak of a disembodied mind is to speak incoherently. Mind do not exist apart from physical, time-bounded processes. We already went through the spirit, folks. If you haven't watched those episodes, go back, watch all three, and you will understand this concept we're speaking about right here. The claim that a timeless mind could decide to create the universe introduces an internal contradiction, since decisions are temporal acts. Spaceless, timeless, but you're making a decision in time. Daniel Bennett, Consciousness Explained, 1991. Daniel Dennett, Consciousness Explained in 1991. Thoroughly rejects the notion of a mind independent of matter. Daniel Dennett, Consciousness Explained in 1991. Thoroughly rejects the notion of a mind independent of matter. Alex Malbas, on the Kalam Cosmological Argument, Sophia Journal 2019, critiques the move from cause to personal agent. You can't make that leap like the cow jump over the moon. Huh? Those are the kind of leaps you're still trying to make. I'm sure you see a little dog laugh to see such fun, and a dish run away with a spoon too, right? Let's go through the whole nursery, right? Logical validity versus ontological truth. This is, when you know better, it is the most annoying stuff to sit and hear the nonsense. Logic operates outside of. And because I made a logical argument, that means that's evidence. I win. God's real because I have a sound argument, because I think so. Grow up. Grow up. James Cassel commits the fallacy of equating logical form with ontological fact. A syllogism can be valid without its conclusion being true in the real world. That requires soundness. Bing! And soundness requires empirical justified premises. You illiterate, ignorant little child, do not call my name. Don't put my names in your videos. You're not my level. You never was. I entertain you guys because I'm part of the community. But no, we no. I debate you. First of all, your level of disingenuousness illustrates that you don't have the cojones to act like an adult and conduct a conversation in reality. You're trying to do this one-up get you. Whereas grown-ups in this community are trying to elevate our people's consciousness. And when you flim-flam and fraud the way you do, you're a discredit and a disservice to our community. But there's nothing I could expect from an ex-Hebrew, or maybe you still want, or whatever, confused Negro. That's what you are for sure. James Cassel commits the fallacy of equating logical form with ontological fact. A syllogism can be valid without its conclusions being true in the real world. That requires soundness, and soundness requires empirically justified premises. Let's illustrate with a parallel. Premise 1, all unicorns are mammals. Premise 2, Charlie is a unicorn. Conclusion, therefore, Charlie is a mammal. The form is valid, but the premises are false. Unicorns do not exist. Well, we can have a metaphysical conversation, and in the metaphysical realm, I can deduce that a unicorn. No, you can't, Negro. empirically justified premises. Shut up, done. Hence the conclusion, while logically derived, is factually meaningless, like the gibberish that is coming out of your mouth. Argument king, no, you sound ignorant. The same applies to Cassel's argument. It is a valid structure built on a speculative sand, and not speculative causation, not a requirement. The rest of his assertion, arbitrary and empirically unjustified. His assertion to speak about things outside of space-time is nonsensical, incoherent. And this, me, boy, go back to Sunday school, find somebody there to play with you. Now my level intellectually, no time soon. Take this whooping like a man. Don't let me hear you call my name again. His errors is what philosopher Wilfie Sellers would call a myth of the given. Pretending that the structure of our reasoning about the world provides us direct access to the world itself, even when such reasoning lacks empirical anchoring. Now, Hume told those boys way back then, y'all stop. It's reckless. Y'all making supernatural claims based on pure reason. Kant told them that first. Hume said, no, we need empirical. No, we're not listening to you make it up anymore. Done. We need stuff to be empirically justified. Not this nonsense these fools are doing out here. Conclusion, metaphysical, masquerading as logic. You're fraud. In the end, James Cassel approach is not rigorous metaphysics or analytical philosophy. It is rhetorical theology, clothed in a logical form. Nick, boy, you exposed. You think we can't see you? Who you think you talking to? This generation of the conscious community ain't that. We can't flim-flam nobody no more. He uses logic not to test claims against reality, but to shield assumptions from falsifiability. He constructs a bridge out of a formal reasoning, leaps off into the unknown, and insists he landed on solid ground. What you smoking? True philosophical inquiries demand more. Claims about reality, especially those involving causality, ontology, or the supernatural, must be tested against what we can observe, measure, and verify. Cassell's disingenuous use of logic to assert metaphysical certainty is not a triumph of reason. It is, in fact, a betrayal, a scam, a fraud, a flim-flam, a phony. And you exposed today. Don't call my name. Debate you. Why? Cassell's claim, premise one, everything that begins to exist has a cause. Scholarly rebuttal. Not upheld by quantum mechanics, causality, not absolute. Source, Krauss, Carroll, and Oppie. Carroll and Oppie. You wanted sources? You got sources. Now go read them. Stop. Don't. You don't understand nothing you're reading anyway. The universe began to exist. Misreading of the Big Bang cosmology. Time is emergent from a singularity. Hawkins, Hartel, and Carroll again. Cause must be a mind. Arbitrary. Incoherent. No mind outside matter. Dennett and Maspar. His last claim. Valid is true. Dummy. Invalid assumption. Logic needs true premises. Sellers and Oppie. Who you think you're playing with? Put my name up there, but I ran from you. Ran from what? What is there to run from? Run from? My body budget, because it requires a lot of energy to sit and listen to the nonsense you spew, to even try to seemingly have a conversation with you, because you're intellectually bankrupt, you're morally bankrupt, you're completely disingenuous, you're a complete fraud. So yes, to mind my body budget, at a certain point I check out, because I can't take no more of the flimflammery and the obvious bull that you're trying to push on people. Definitive statement with academic sourcing. Let's put a nail in this thing and it's done. I don't want to hear you again. You, as a matter of fact, get out these YouTube streets. But you debating. You ain't debating nobody. You just crying like a baby. The application of logic is necessarily constrained by the structure of reality, which includes space and time. You start off a discussion with a grown man who knows better, trying to convince me that space-time isn't the definition for reality. Because in your made-up world, you can make up things whatever you want. Go work for Marvel, man. Get out of this community trying to be intellectually sound. You're phony, attempting to use logic to make ontological true claims about that which is entirely outside space and time is incoherent and epistemologically what is that word? Vacacious. Somebody correct me. Logic as a formal system requires input, premises that are grounded in concepts intelligible within our cognitive and empirical framework. You trying to convince me you know about things outside of space-time. How? Now that we understand four fundamental forces break down in the singularity, we cannot make any claims beyond that point. None. So how do you assume to sit and talk to me and try to convince me otherwise? With your flimflammery, you ain't smart enough. When premises reference unknowable, unobservable, or non-empirical domains, such as outside space-time, they lack the true conditions required to yield knowledge, rendering any conclusion speculative at best and meaningless at worst. And coming from you, it's meaningless at best. Screenshot your sources. Dogmatism and empiricism, 1951, argues that no statement is immune to revision, and the meaning and true emergence of a web of belief grounded in empirical observation. To assert truth beyond all possible observation is to step outside the domain of meaningful discourse. So you lying. Why would I conversate with you? A.J. Ayers, Language, Truth, and Logic, strong verificationalist stance. A proposition which refers to a transcendental reality or to something outside of possible experience has no empirical meaning. And you're dismissed from any discussion with me. Empiricism is the foundation for which we're going to have a discussion. So come with some empirical data. Do not come with your flim-flam, make it up nonsense, wasting people's time, necessarily not mine. Sean Carroll, Caltech physicist, debate with William Lane Craig. You don't get to assert things about what's outside space-time without evidence. That's not a domain where our concepts like causation or logic are guaranteed to apply. Didn't I tell you that in the conversation? You would have spared yourself this embarrassment, because the whole world gonna see you as a fraud. Ludwig Wittgenstein, Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus, Propositions 6.53. Wherefore one cannot speak, thereof one must be silent. This applies to metaphysical speculations beyond language and empirical constraints, including claims about the supernatural or outside of space-time. You think you were the first thing to stick up? No, you weren't. 1921 already, that been dismissed.
Watch your language.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, though. Bust them up.
Stephen Hawking's The Grand Design 2010. I'm sorry. But philosophy is dead in the sense that pure reason divorced from physical models and evidence cannot tell us anything useful about the universe. Stop wasting people's time. Get out. Go the hell up. He rejects metaphysical speculation, not grounded in physics. Graham Hoppe, Philosophical Perspective on Infinity, Cosmology and God. Hoppe critiques arguments like the Kalam for failing to justify the leap from logical form to metaphysical certainty, especially when the premises reference conditions outside the boundaries of physical reality. Your academic sources, you don't know who says who, says who, says who, says who, says who, look, says who. You need source, you need ignorant child. Epistemological principle, I keep telling you, your epistemology is off. Truth apt claims must be situated within epistemic constraints. Truth requires correspondence with reality. Logic alone does not establish truth. It only perceives it if the premises are true. Premises referring to a domain beyond possible experience, for example, outside space-time, are not verifiable and thus cannot yield knowledge or justify true beliefs. You're making it up, you're flim-flamming, you're frauding. James Cassell's claim that logic can be used to establish truth about things outside space-time is a category mistake. Logic is a tool for analyzing structured relations within propositions, but not a magic wand that conjures truth from metaphysical fantasies without evidence. And it's you talking, so we're going to require more evidence because nobody trusts you. You are lying, scamming, disingenuous fraud. So you're going to have to bring double the evidence. Without truth, evaluable premises grounded in the natural world, logic becomes detached from epistemology and collapses into speculation with not knowledge. Like I told you, your epistemology is flawed. You have no epistemic principles for making these claims. I told you, but you wouldn't listen. So now you're going to get that whooping. Now let's delve into you trying to straw man me, make me look like I don't know what a mathematical theorem is. Off the bat, I told you what it was. You keep doubling down. Now you're making yourself look stupid. This is an essential distinction to clarify because you go confusing the two, especially when someone like James conflates a mathematical theorem with a scientific theory. Let's break it down in a fully sourced, academically structured explanation, showing why the misuse of mathematical theorems like BGV to make metaphysical claims about reality is methodologically flawed. Who you think you're dealing with, son? For true, who you think you're dealing with? I humble, I can talk to everybody, gonna have a conversation, but don't try to measure things with me because you're not on my level. You just simply ain't. A mathematical theorem is a deductive statement proven from axioms within a formal system. A scientific theory is an explanatory framework built on empirical data. That's the point I was making. You have no empiricism, or it's not required to make a theorem. That's the point. You see right there in the first sentence? Subject to falsifiability and grounded in physical reality. The two operate on fundamentally different epistemological foundations. Confusing them allows for illegitimate metaphysical leaps, such as Cassel's claim about causality outside of space-time. You ain't never gonna get me. You're not that intelligent. You're not that smart. You're not that fast. You can't flim-flam me. So at the point I get off the conversation is when you start to add harm and you're a pseudo killer, don't know about. At that point, there's no more conversation. You're throwing your guns. You're done because you're incoherent at that point. Just making noise. What is a mathematical theorem? Definition of a mathematical theorem is a logical deduction derived from a specific set of axioms and references rules within a formal system. Algebra, geometry, number theory, differential geometry. Example, the Pythagorean theorem follows from the axioms of Euclidean geometry. If A, then B, and B is true, necessarily given the truth of A. Source, Ian Stewart, The Great Theorems of Mathematics, 2005. And Endelston, Herbert, Mathematical Introduction to Logic, 2001. Key point, theorems are true preserving within their formal framework. They do not describe reality unless we first establish that the axiom maps to reality. So you throw a theorem on me, and I say, oh, that's not necessarily ground make it true. Hey, wait, you can't interject a mathematical theorem. If you're doing that, it would be in support of. Otherwise, mathematical theorems are just that. They do not necessarily describe reality. That's what I said, you dummy, but you couldn't handle it. So now you start to straw man me, go all over the place, look at yourself look like a fool. I know exactly what I'm saying. What is a scientific theory? We heard what you thought. Everybody heard how you miscategorize what a scientific theory is. But since we're in this community, we often have to do this. We are always ready to do it again and again and again. Definition of scientific theory is an explanatory model that describes observed phenomena in predictive and is predictive and is empirically testable. It must be falsifiable and subject to revision based on new data. Example, theory of evolution by natural selection, general relativity, quantum field theory. Sources, Karl Popper, The Logic of Scientific Discovery, 1959. James Ladyman, Understanding Philosophy of Science, 2002. Key points, scientific theories are not proved true in the sense of logical certainty. They are supported by the weighing of the evidence and can always be overturned or refined. Theories are descriptive and explanatory of the physical world. What was the other one? Wait there. Theorems are true, preserving within their formal framework. They do not describe reality unless we first establish that these axioms map to reality. Oh, isn't that what I was saying? But I guess you couldn't understand it because you're just trying to get a gotcha moment and went right over your head. Now let's examine the theorem. The BGV theorem, scientific theory. The BGV theorem, 2003, is a mathematical result derived from assumptions about space-time geometry and average Hubble expansion. What it is, a mathematical theorem within general relativity. Does it say anything about structure outside of space-time? No. General relativity and classical space-time assumption. Classical space-time assumption is dealing with reality. What it is not. A complete scientific theory of the early universe. No, it's not. It's not a claim about metaphysical causality, which was the discussion we were having. You simple, slow. A description of anything outside space-time. What it is not a description of anything outside of space-time. What it is not a description of anything outside of space-time. You fraud. Alexander Vilenkin, one of the authors of the BGV, later clarified the BGV theorem says nothing about the actual beginning of the universe, nor about what preceded it. Why are you a liar? Why are you a flim-flam and a fraud? Why are you a phony? James Cassel, talk to the people. Don't put my name in the video. Just come up here, tell the people, you're trying, you want to be famous. Tell them something. Give them a reason why you lie. But we know you're a liar and a fraud and a flim-flam. And that's why we ain't having a conversation ever again, because you're a phony. You're disingenuous. Either that or you're just dumb. But either way, not me. Not interested. Had one debate with you. You flim-flam your way through the debate. I got you to admit that your own title was stupid. Bro, from the time you do that, I mean, don't you get how slow you are? I attacked your title in the third round, and you admitted in the debate. At me, I know I choose a stupid title. I did it on purpose. Whether you did it on purpose or not, you just admitted to choosing a stupid title, you idiot. I know you're slow.
No ad hominems. Information only.
That's not an add-on. Incoherent. He's incoherent. He's nonsensical. It's right there in the slides. I didn't make it up. Logical versus empirical framework. Logic and mathematics. Deductive reason. Science. Inductive. Abductive reasoning based on data. How you like that? Well, not even here do you get away from the necessity of having actual data. Empiricism. You need epistemic data value. When Cassel uses mathematical theorems to claim something about the empirical universe, or worse, something metaphysical like the supernatural, he's treating deductive output from a formal system as if it were empirical evidence. Do you need help? You need to get tested. He's treating deductive output from a formal system as if it were empirical evidence. So you think of something over there, and all of a sudden you think it's in your hand here? What kind of woo is that? Because you made it up, all of a sudden it became empirical, tangible, factual? What kind of... Hey, I don't want that. Keep that. That is a category error. Analogy. If you can prove the sun exists using geometry alone, you must look. No, you can't prove the sun exists using geometry alone. You must look. Not me. Don't do it again. Philosophical clarifications. Quinn and Putman. Indispensability argument. Rightly noted that math is indispensable to science, but that does not mean mathematical loans give ontological truth. Isn't that what I was trying to say? But I guess my level of understanding this kind of stuff is in another stratosphere. So when I'm speaking, I was going over your head, or you were too caught up in the gut. Maybe on the butt. I don't know. Or whatever your issue is, get help. Ludwig Wittgenstein, Tractatus Logicus Philosophicus, 6.2. Mathematics is a method of logic. It has no empirical content. Tiene que decirlo otra vez. Mathematics is a method of logic. It has no empirical content. It is what we use to describe. It is descriptive, not prescriptive, if you know the difference. David, we cannot derive matters of fact from relations of ideas. We cannot derive matters of fact from relations of ideas. James thinks he can simply make it up because he fundamentally believes in fairy tales and sky daddies. Don't call my name again. Me and you ain't on the same. Put my name in your crazy. The conflation is invalid. James Cassel misuse of the BGV theorem, treating it like a scientific theory that proves, you heard him, that's proof That's proof. Like you don't know what proof means in science, in mathematics. That proves something outside space-time, shows a lack of understanding of both principles. So now you bring up mathematical theorem and you prove you don't even know what the hell that means as well. He treats a formal, non-empirical structure of mathematics as though it were an empirical explanatory framework. Science, you are confused. You're out of your league. Why? Not me. I'm the quiet one. You know what the quiet one is? The dangerous one, bro. He commits a philosophical error by applying the internal results of a model to realms for which the model has no justification. To quote Sean Carroll again, you do not get to pull a theorem out of a model, then apply it to a metaphysical reality that model doesn't describe. You don't get to do that. We know the flim flammery that you scammers all are going to try. You've been exposed. You a fraud. Don't call my name. With
Don't
that,
call his name.
keep my name out your mouth. With that,
Keep
stop
his
sharing my
name out
screen,
your
Judy.
mouth. Shoot.
Don't play with me, son. Don't play with me. And this is one off. You from now on, you are just hot air. You wanted the attention, you got it. But you are not on my level. You are fraud. You are flim flammer. Please go watch the video and see how confused this thing is. So you wanted their attention, you got it. Do what you want with that. Do not call my name. You ain't winning no debate. You are not on my level. Stay out of the Sula Killer realm. Go play the Bible Tell Me So with your Sunday school friends. This is grown man arena.
Don't play with us. You better
Don't
move out the
play with the
way.
pseudo killers, because we ain't
Don't play
troubling
with
nobody.
us.
We out here teaching. Put my name in the title. I'm going to put yours in the whole damn presentation. I'm going to make you look like the fool you are. You're exposed.
Exposed.
Every
You
word there
exposed.
is, we got you on record saying it. So you can't flim flam. You can't match it up. It's documented now. You wanted the attention. There you go. Now everybody knows who James Cassel the clown is. Now go
Yep.
ahead, do what you gotta do.
Do what
Anybody
you
want
gotta
to
do.
come up here for 5 minutes? 5 minutes more.
I'm silly. I gotta jump in. What up? PKO Chilimbwe in the building. Excuse me, chill. What up, chill?
What up? What up? How everybody doing?
How you doing,
Good.
chill?
I'm just being silly.
Nah,
Cedrick
I did get a chance.
Awesome.
I did get a chance to look at the beginning of that video. Said with what's the guy name again?
James
That was
Cassell.
James Cassell.
yeah, yeah. So he made some fundamental errors and some category fallacies in the conversation. So I think you did an excellent job addressing some of it. One thing is the hard problem of consciousness. I don't know where he got that definition from, but he was absolutely wrong. That isn't
Yeah,
what it is.
no.
It's the hard problem of consciousness is really about subjective experiences.
Mm-hmm.
How can a material such as the brain produce subjective experiences quantified through consciousness? That's what it is. To suggest that
Yep.
it somehow or another implies that consciousness is outside the brain
Outside the brain. That has nothing
is
to
a
do with it.
stretch.
Yeah, the individual experience, and that's within the realm of philosophy. It has been a problem. However, with the development of determinism and understanding of epigenetics, expression, etc., we come in more and more to understand how the individual experience is that of the individual and not necessarily shared by a third party.
Absolutely. And then some people have misrepresented what logic and reasoning is. And that is because they don't think that the brain is faulty. Logic
Yeah.
and reasoning is a way to address human bias. And so the fact that it's there to address human biases already puts it in the realm of naturalism. See what I'm saying? So you can't then
Yeah,
take that same logic and reasoning and extend it beyond where the biases exist. It doesn't make sense.
it doesn't make
It's
sense.
fundamentally flawed. Yeah, fundamentally
Exactly.
flawed in the argument. Humans are biased. We have all types of biases. And when you use logic and reasoning, it's there to address the biases. And when you fail to do that, we call those logical fallacies. See, so that's what it means. It means that you failed to address the biases that are very common to humans. And that
Exactly.
in and of itself implies that it must be natural. You can't go to the supernatural. And so these are just fundamental points that when you hold conversations with other intelligent people, you come to realize some of the simplicities of life, right, and their
Mhm.
experiences. Sometimes we want to be smarter than we really are. I don't have a problem not being the smartest person in the room. You
Not at
understand?
all.
Actually, I enjoy it.
That's where
And
you learn the
so,
most.
Mhm.
absolutely. And then being able to hold conversations with these intelligent people um, is always an honor. So, um, so I just wanted you to know I did when you set up the call, I did check it out, and I just wanted to touch on those 2 points right quick. I
Yeah.
think you did an excellent job addressing some of the misconceptions that he had, and I think he's actually quite he might be quite intelligent, but sometimes when you're in a circle with other unintelligent people, you don't get that
Mhm.
pushback that you need
Yep.
to make sure
Mhm.
you stay in the right arena. You get what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I purposely left the arguments about consciousness out of the equation because don't forget we got the episode 3 in deconstruction the divine, and it is going to be about consciousness where we delve into determinism, hard problem consciousness, and all these other topics, panpsychism. That's why I left those arguments alone because they're going to be dealt with. I wasn't going to take away from our production. See, I'm producing. I'm
Adversarial
producing.
fact. Fact, Cedric.
I'm
You
gonna have
better
to.
tell you producing.
I'm gonna have to send you the book I got from the master class.
Yes,
And
sir.
I'll send it to you in the Discord so you can have that. Um, very interesting conversations in it, so I'll send that to
Mhm.
you. Just remind me.
Yeah, I will. I will. Thank you.
No problem.
Joel.
Thank you, Chilimbwe. We appreciate that. Good
Peace to
feedback.
the PKs.
What up,
Peace,
Joel?
Joel.
What's going on? Hey, Juju. Hey, good. Hey, Juju, you being good today?
Now you're gonna make bad juju come out because you asked
Come
him a
on, Juju.
question.
I
That's
can't
why
say
we
what I
can't get
want to say
along.
unless I always got to do that
That's
litmus
why
test
we
to make
can't
sure
get
you believe
along. You always gonna get bad juju
me. hey,
because you be
hey, Cedric.
antagonizing good juju.
Hey,
That
hey,
be no
Cedric.
sense.
Yes,
Hey,
sir.
Cedric.
Cedric, go ahead. Let me mute.
Hey, Cedric, you've been building, man. You put this series together, man. Golly, bro. Why you want to pick on us folks that use our imagination for everything, man? Golly, bro.
I ain't picking on no one. It's the folks with the imagination picking on me. Why is everybody always picking on me? I just did a presentation debunking or using Victor Stenger. Then I did a series on spirit. All of a sudden, the pseudos pop their head up out of the bushes trying to talk metaphysics.
Yeah, boy. You hit the spirit, man. We coming out the bushes, man. Hey, Chill, what's up, Chill? How you doing, man? You good?
Thank you, Mr.
I'm good. I'm disappointed that you ran from that good conversation this morning. Took off.
Man, you shook my
What? No,
brain,
no.
man.
Wait. What happens in the Discord? Stay in the Discord. Come on, guys.
Thank you, Juju.
Jesus.
Juju
Nah,
being good, Juju
ain't
today.
thank you. Because next time you get on the panel, you better address me like you address Cedric and Chilembwe, not with all that goofy stuff.
Oh, excuse me. I was just trying to have some fun, Juju. That's
Stop asking about bad juju.
all right.
That's a
My
trigger.
bad. My bad, good Juju. My bad. You know
How can you? That's what you call it. You trouble Hulk.
Trigger.
You trouble
I don't
Hulk.
get no. What's up, Juju? You know. Yeah.
I started off with it. What's up, Juju?
I don't even remember that part. See, because now
Yeah,
you got mad, Juju.
Yeah, because you got
I,
it.
I
You got
don't.
triggered.
I don't even
You got
remember that. I didn't hear that.
Yeah, I
But
started off with
yeah. What happens in the Discord? Stay in the Discord. That's why y'all should join the Discord. Yeah,
That's right.
Chief.
Hey, look, good conversations going on
Yeah,
in the
so,
Discord.
Yeah,
yeah,
gotta
fact.
join the Discord. If you want your brain challenge, if you want just out of random to be asked a question that has you thinking for 3 and 4 days, you need to be in that Discord. Then you understand the speed with which we process information when
Fact.
we get it on these panels. You're not gonna flim flam us. This is what we do.
Right.
We're a group of nerds that are all about intellectual conversation. People be asking me some, what you talking about? I said, you don't want to know. Like,
All right.
I'm
So
definitely not the smartest person in the room. I'm probably the least smartest.
hey Cedric, let's get back to the supernatural now. Let's get back to
don't
the
even say
supernatural.
nothing.
Let's get back to the
Get back to it.
supernatural.
Somebody
me
What
when you
should
get
us folks? Because
Tell me when you get there.
you did a 4-part series. That's really good. I want to know.
This
what
is not. So you're talking about the other presentation? You don't have any questions for this presentation?
No, I missed this one.
This was a drive-by.
Get off my panel, Joe. I'm just kidding.
Joel,
I'm just
we're in fight mode right now. You come in here. If you come in here, you might get shot up.
Go ahead.
Now, let me take the back seat. Then I'm just gonna listen in.
You got it, Joel. You can address the other shows. I'm just picking on you because you was doing me. You know, it's a clap back.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I missed this one because I came in late.
Oh, good. We don't want to hear that. Ask them questions though. You good. You work.
All right.
Y'all, we got some hard workers in the Discord, okay?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. So go ahead. You got it.
A bunch of model Americans in the Discord.
Facts.
Hey, said. Let's talk about the spirit a little bit, man.
Let's talk about it.
So what is a person to do, right? If they caught into the spirit world, the supernatural, right? Because that's all part of talking about the conscience. You know what I mean? I think that's what you might have been building on today. You know, all these things kind of go together. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a big part of American society. It's a big part of the world. You know, a lot of us rely on spiritual things, the supernatural. You know, it helps us to cope. So what do you think a person should do?
I attested to the attributes of spirituality in the presentation, and how you would know that I was doing that. You're going to hear the shout out to Sosa, right? Because Sosa always addresses the functionality of these concepts. Now, functionality is always attributed to ignorance, or it can be attributed to ignorance, right? That concept functions because of what you think it means. I never told anyone not to be spiritual in that presentation. I just did an in-depth analysis of the complete history of where these ideas come from, to understand now when for me now, knowing when I say spirit and whatever concept we have of it is that comes directly from Aristotle, 300 CE. That concept didn't evolve much. Plato went in a completely different direction, but theology remained with its Aristotelian framework, right? So if you provide people with these understandings and they realize, oh, wait a minute, they were trying to figure out what was going on in the head. Mm-hmm. They came up with this concept because that is the ability to give agency. The fact, Joel, we take it for granted now, but you can hear yourself speaking without moving your mouth. You can hear other people in your head without them being present. Now, we understand these phenomena today and we take them for granted. There was a time where people were saying, wait a minute, how does this work? They didn't have tools. They didn't have instruments. All they have were their faculties, intuition. So these concepts come from a place of intuition. we continue to explore and try over our evolution as human beings, our understanding as human beings. We came into the era of Carl Jung and Freud, your buddy, that had erotic ideas of his mama. But these are all, you see the transition from something outside of self to something completely within the confinements of the self. Our understanding of the brain and how neuro sensory processes work. Now we can understand where and what these phenomena is. However, the concept of spirit, if you have that as a comfort to you, that can remain your comfort. Why do scientifically literate people still have superstitions when it's around sports and these things and it's perfectly okay? Right? So there is no need to remain ignorant to where your particular belief come from, or be ignorant to understanding how natural forces work. Right? That doesn't take away from you from your concept of spirit and whatever that does for you. Grounding yourself in reality does not take away from the mysticism that exists within your confinement. I keep telling people every day, I still believe I can fly, and no one believes me, but I really do.
Gigi, where you find this guy?
I really
That's
do.
good. All right, so basically what I hear you saying is that if I had to try to surmise what I just heard, the issue comes in when we try to hold on to a lot of these Stone Age ideas and make them valid for the day.
Yeah, when we use them as a matter of fact, when you got individuals like James Cassel is trying to argue metaphysics and claiming that he can make claims about things outside of time and space using logic, is completely irrational. That for me, it shows a danger in maintaining these philosophical concepts. You see, Graham Oppie also said, it is as if the embracing of reality and truth somehow will diminish your sense of spirituality and these type of things. And what you end up doing is making incoherent arguments to the contrary, right? We started discussion, and the basis of the discussion, the individual is trying to tell me that we're going to have a conversation that exists outside of space-time. When we know the fundamental four forces break down in the singularity, you want to use logic when logic is descriptive of reality, the four fundamental forces of nature. So that's incoherent. That's nonsensical. There is what is there to talk about? And insisting, and then the YouTube streets insistence that I'm running from them or whatever. You're irrational, you're illogical, and you're nonsensical. You're incoherent. There is no conversation to have if you fail to understand the basic premises on which these discussions are held. Even your metaphysical claims based on methodological naturalism, which is grounded in philosophy, requires you to take that next step within empiricism to verify these claims. Otherwise, they're philosophically unsound. That's why the mind-body dualism concept has no standing. It has been rendered mute because we understand the deterministic nature of chemistry, biology, and of reality. Right? Once we test these philosophical concepts within the realm of the philosophical concept of methodological naturalism, is where they become empirically and epistemologically verified. Otherwise than that, you're making it up.
Right. And that's something that all of us need to agree on, right? When I say all of us, I'm talking about us spiritual folks. We all need to agree on the fact that these things are made up. This is just how people view their world, and they put it out there the way they understood it. And they didn't do no scientific testing like we do today. They just didn't. And so it's no way for them to know the stuff that we know. So I mean, we have to be responsible and let that stuff go. You know.
Yeah.
So.
It's intuitive, and we need to appreciate the ingenuity to come up with these concepts, right? Because it is all intuitive, right? So I give those early thinkers all the credit. But we have tools now, and we've come to realize, like we always say, science itself is counterintuitive. And when we look at these claims, they are not grounded in any sort of empiricism, no empirical evidence. By its very nature, metaphysical is outside of the physical. You cannot make any such claims. It simply can't.
All right. So what's the problem with using our logic? Oh, I said that like I already know. Is there a problem with using our logic? And if so, why?
Now, logic is a descriptive element of reality. The law of non-contradiction, the law of what are those three basic laws of logic and reason? They slip me right now. They are evident. They are self-evident, right?
Mm-hmm.
I cannot be a married bachelor, right? A round square. That these things are impossible, right? So that's where you establish these frameworks of logic and reason. Causality is intuitive, right? So we see causation. So on within the macro, within the atomic world, it is predominantly causal. However, we have evidence that on a subatomic level in the quantum field, this causality that we have in a classical sense does not exist, right? Or isn't necessarily a thing, right? We see quantum fluctuations, and we know that causality in the classical sense is not in play. Go ahead, Juju.
Are you talking about law of identity, law of non-contradiction, law of the excluded middle?
Yes. I got
Did you
stuck
want
at
me to
the
go through them, or?
Go ahead. Yeah, briefly. Yeah, go ahead.
So, law of identity, a thing is what it is. A equals A. A tree is a tree, then it is a tree. That's an example. Law of non-contradiction, a statement cannot be both true and false at the same time and in the same respect. Example, it cannot be both raining and not raining at the same time in the same location. Law of excluded middle, a statement is either true or false. There's no middle ground. Example, the light is either on or it is not on. Yeah. The three laws of logic and reasoning. Hey, Lakota. I'm done.
Yeah, but folks don't follow those three laws.
Never. Courtney Thompson, you are welcome on the panel. If you want to ask a question or have a small discussion. Yeah.
Because when I hear logic, I normally think of like the way we reason things. Like we try to use our perception of things. That equals
perception of things. But, that's like an opinionated and a biased perception of things. However,
right. But we're calling out logic. You're not using logic. That's what we mean. Say that.
Logic is usually objective. Am I wrong?
Yes, it is objective. It is descriptive and objective. And someone trying to argue Hume's imperialism has misapplied Hume and taken for themselves rational as reasonable. You see, the word methodological naturalism is what Hume was the father and the foundation of. Empiricism, nothing about rational. Empiricism, data-driven. If I just concluded that science is counterintuitive, then it's not necessarily rational, is what I'm looking at. We're not using, we're not assuming or talking about rationality. We're talking about a tool or a system in which to verify and confirm reality. Methodological naturalism. I never took rationale away from as a point of departure from Hume. Rationale is well grounded in dismissing claims about the supernatural or metaphysical claims without any empirical support, right? That is irrational because there is no there. What is the basis for these assumptions? They are arbitrary, unsupported. There's no there. They're making it up, and it can be made up to refer to anything. That is the unfalsifiability aspect of it. These are the rational aspects of Hume that we all employ. However, when I refer to Hume, I'm specifically referring to methodological naturalism, the means by which we examine and quantify and verify reality.
The earth is flat is a logical statement, right?
No.
Yeah, like completely logical.
No, because the earth is not flat.
But
How's
to
that
my,
logical?
if I went by my perception, what I see, I would
It's
say
rational. It would be rational to assume
Okay.
the earth is flat.
Okay.
Rational, not logical. It is
Logical. Thank you.
rational to
so. That's
assume.
normally how we use the word logic when we say it. Oh, it's just logical. Look, you can just look out there. You can see it. The earth flat.
So they're making
No,
rational statements and confusing
That's
it
a
with
rational
logic.
statement.
Yeah,
Exactly.
there we go. Yeah, we on to something now. Everybody you see that's got deeply melanated skin, I don't care where they at, they from Africa.
That's both irrational and illogical.
That's they're
That
rationalizing
is
it.
both that is both irrational and illogical. But we can understand how ignorance would lead to such an intuitive decision, conclusion.
Look, like that statement like that statement that's right there. How is logic objective when in fact logic is a conceptual thing?
Logic
Your eyes not gonna do you no justice.
logic is descriptive and not prescriptive. It describes what we observe. And we observe that a square is a square, the square will never be a circle. So that is not conceptualizing. That is a language to describe reality. Logic is a language. It is not a conceptualization. It is an actualization of phenomena that we seek to describe. A square is a square is a square.
Courtney, you should come up here and help us out, man. I'm not sure I can
I've
articulate.
already invited him up. You know, people be scared. So
I'm trying. You don't have to be afraid, man. We don't fight, man. Plus, I'm trying to explain what you're saying, Courtney, but I'm not sure I'm gonna do it right. See, look, he said if minds don't exist, neither does your argument or point. See,
But
I
mine
agree.
exists.
I agree.
Our description of reality, we use logic. It's a language we use to describe it. It is descriptive. It is not prescriptive. It is not
What's the difference between the mind and
dictating.
the brain?
It is not dictating what reality does. It is describing how reality behaves. It is a tool that necessarily humans use.
I think this question I'm about to ask feeds into your presentation.
Courtney, just a
Oh,
moment.
go ahead.
Welcome to the panel, Courtney Thompson. I'm going to let you have the floor now to ask your questions or surmise what we've been saying in the last 15 minutes. But to answer your question, ChatGPT says, because I'm going to tell you where I got it from, logic is considered objective because its principles hold independently of personal opinion or belief, which we said. Yeah, so that is your answer, plus the one that Cedrick gave you. So you have the floor now.
All right, thank you very much. How's everyone doing today?
Doing
And
good.
can I be heard?
Good.
You're a little choppy, but we can hear you.
Okay, I really got bad StreamYard. That was part of the reason why I was afraid to jump in the call. Yeah, I think whoever just was giving that explanation of what logic is as it relates to reality and everything else, I think he just performatively demonstrated that his position is incoherent. Especially when you begin to say things like, oh, since mind body dualism is out the window, and you're applying logic, which is an aspect of rational thought. This is not an aspect of material configuration, but intellectual assessment. So it's not even physical when you talk about logic. I've never in the material world ever picked up a rock and looked at the law of logic and then was able to take it to a test lab and then see how much it weighed, what color it was, the spectrum of assessments, whatever spectrum, whether I'm looking at it through UV, regular light, whatever. You can't do that with something that's non-physical, such as logic, that you're appealing to in order to make a logical argument about a position that you disagree with. I also agree, Sister Juju, that logic does attempt to be an objective, axiomatic, principle-based system by which we are able to apply and investigate things and make assessments to things. But what it's not is something material. It's something that is assumed and utilized to some by means of conventions, just practical conventions. Others have very, very deep explanations of what logic is, where it comes from, what governs it, why is it immutable, why does logic never change, how does the law of identity always remain the law of identity and never changes. I think that's reflective of something else that also is of the same type of taxonomy, if you will. So it's reflective of something else that is also transcendent, ascertainable, and reflective. And I think ultimately what that is God, but that's a whole nother argument. I'm not even here to try to present a tag argument for logic through God or anything like that. But I do think whoever I just heard speaking before Sister Juju,
Hold on,
uh,
stop. Because I don't know when you got in here, but Cedrick Ortega, pseudo kill official, is the one to present it, and he's on the panel, so you can address him instead of
no
saying
problem. I just
whoever.
didn't know the person's
No,
name. I
I
didn't
don't
know their
want.
name.
No, I'm
I
gonna clear it up because it's a little disrespectful. He's on the panel, so you can address him. He's right here. His camera is on. So that's Mr. Cedrick Ortega,
I,
pseudo killer
I
official.
heard you.
Wait. However, I think you're confusing two things. It's giving false equivalency, but I could be wrong. So I'm gonna let Cedric handle that. Chilembe, are you there? And maybe
The,
Chilembe, because
the
yeah, I'm
only
not the
thing I'm
smartest
going,
person.
the only thing I'm going to respond to is the obvious, straw man. At no point did we consider, talk about, or assume that logic was anything tangible. Logic
Facts.
is a descriptive tool which describes reality. Done, nothing else. That whole spill you went on, all to come back to make the same assertion by a long route that you can actually make claims of things outside of time space is again nonsensical at best, right? And incoherent. That whole spiel you went on was absolutely and totally incoherent. So more than that, nothing to respond to. Like you did the psychobabble thing. It's a nice try, but who would assume that logic would be tangible, testable? It is an instrument. It is a language which we use to describe reality. That's all. That's the only statement I was doing. Its objectivity was attested to.
Gotta mute up, Courtney.
You know, its
Somebody's talking.
objectivity was just attested to by Juju as it is an independent phenomena
Facts.
of human opinion. It is simply
Pause.
a matter,
Pause,
matter
Cedric.
of
Pause. Say that statement over because I interrupted. Joel, take over. Give me like 5 minutes. So you got it, Joel, okay?
All right.
yeah. So I just added on to what I was saying by concluding that Juju also illustrated simply that it is a matter of fact. These things are objective and it is descriptive of reality. Descriptive, not prescriptive. We do not, it does not dictate how nature operates. It is a tool we use, a language to describe reality. So why for a second or half a millisecond, I would assume or think that it is actually something tangible, goes beyond any level or reason or logic that I can adapt to. And again, to come around to make the assertion that you can make claims about things outside of time and space renders your whole spill at the end still mute.
I'm so glad you just gave a great argument for something that's independent of human minds, whether it be yours or mine, i.e., outside of your and my personal physical instances, as to argue something that is to make an objective point. You're still performatively shooting yourself in the foot every time you speak, sir, with all due respect. And the main reason is because, again, you're appealing to rules, axioms, as if they have some type of intentional force. That's a personal attribute. That's a personal attribute as it relates to rational thoughts. So I was quiet when you were speaking. Okay, I'm getting cut off.
Reality exists independent of human beings. Reality.
We're talking about logic, the laws of logic.
Stop. Human beings.
You just cut me off, sir.
Yes, hey, and I will do that. You know where you are? You know where you are?
I do. I'm in a place where I was asked to mute up when other people were speaking, and now I'm being spoken over, even though I muted up initially.
Bro, you're under pseudo killers. I will cut you off till you stop. Hold on, I'm gonna make a point. Again, we don't need to go on a long spill off on no faulty premise. So we're gonna correct your premise and then you can have the flow. Reality exists independent of humans' observation of it. So the fact that it operates on those descriptive elements are independent of humans' existence, yes or no, because humans only exist on this planet 300,000 years. However, these forces were operating for the last 13.8 billion years. So yes, when we observe it and use this language is independent of us being there because this is the way nature operates prior to our ability to observe it, and it will be so after our ability to observe it. So your premise is false.
Stop.
Great. You just said nature operates logically. Nature operates logically. That is not a description.
I know you hear me.
I'm right here. Yes.
Is you're gonna follow my instructions and you're gonna mute while Cedrick is talking because you have a lot of static background noise, my guy. So do that, please. I'm not asking. You can go.
Okay. Yeah. I understand I have bad background noise. If you remember when I first got in the call, I said one of the reasons why I really didn't want to join was because of my bad mic.
Bro, I'm not going to argue with you. What I asked you is you mute up when other people are talking. That's the only point I'm making. I don't even care about the background noise, but don't have your background noise interrupting Cedrick when he's speaking or anybody else on the panel. Just follow my instructions.
Am I able to respond now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Because the brother just gave an explanation of how the laws of nature prescribe how and dictate how to work. The laws of logic dictate how nature works. That is not a description. He just went from, the laws of logic. Oh yeah, they're just descriptions of nature and about nature. Okay, I'm being cut off again. You all have a great day. Everybody have a great day.
Let him finish, Cedrick, please. I know it's your show, but please let him finish. Let's not.
I think we should define logic.
Straight crash out, bro.
Where'd he go? He left already?
Again, when I say
I'm here to take his stride.
Are descriptive and not prescriptive, you cannot turn around and then say, I said they are prescriptive. They describe reality. We use logic, a language that describes reality. That reality existed prior to us being there. So this operates independent of our minds. We are observers of it, and we apply a language to understand what is taking place. It is descriptive. It has nothing to do with the presence of human beings or not. Our presence allows us to see what's going on and describe what we experience with the tool called logic. That's
Real
it.
quick. Chillumboy. Well, first, so Courtney, if you're in the audience, you can come back up. I don't understand why it's a problem for you to follow directions. I'm moderating the panel. So, Chillumboy, did you want to make a statement or say something really quick?
No, he's going now. I'd rather wait to see if he comes back. I
All right.
think he
All right.
I think he made a I mean there is this argument that logic is fundamental, but that's a minute, a very minimal amount of philosophers who hold that. Most of them hold that logic is interactive. In other words, um, it's the human mind and external world interacting with one another in a sense to help us formulate an idea
Mm-hmm.
of what is reality. But again, like I said before, it's designed or it's there to alleviate biases. So our minds want to do, I think we call it hyper agency, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so we as you ask children, why does it rain? And they automatically give agency to the rain for trees to grow, right? We put purpose in it instead of it being just a natural cause of the water cycle that exists on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And because we have that habit, we tend to apply agency when we use arguments, right? And so we start to add purpose to things, or as we like to call it, causality. You see
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? And logic
Right.
is there. We use logic as a tool to help examine said argument. So if you was to make an argument about a teapot, no, I'm not going to do teapot. If I was to try to make an argument that pink rabbits exist the size of elephants, we would
Mm-hmm.
use logic to address that claim,
Right.
right? And one would say, does nature produce pink as a color for mammals? We say, yeah, flamingos. And
Right.
do it create animals the size of elephants? And we say, yes, we have examples of that. Does that mean that there are pink rabbits the size of elephants in the middle of Africa? We would say
Not
no.
at all.
You understand?
Not it.
Now, when you get into the philosophical argument, you're going to get into what we call what is plausible and probable. So something may be plausible, it could be, but the
Mhm.
probability of that existing is so low that is negligible and we ignore it. And so that's how you hold these type of conversations. And I hope that we get into those points when we get into talking about methodological naturalism,
Right.
ontological naturalism, and philosophical naturalism.
So
That's all
real
I
quick.
wanted to say.
Right. So real quick, I feel like Chilimboy and Cedric. So do we need a presentation on what is logic now or something?
And I'm seeing the
Oh
necessity.
Jesus.
Every show is telling me what next, what's the
I
next show I
know.
have to do.
But so and I also think one of Courtney Thompson's problems is that he got mad because it doesn't affirm his God. It's giving that you came late because we do have a non-Christian, a Christian person on the panel, and he made a great statement earlier. So for the audience, it would do you justice to have listened to the entire presentation before you get on the panel and crash out. I'm just saying, try it. It might work for you. I'm just saying. Mendinka Mali.
Yeah, can y'all hear me? Peace and blessings to Pseudo Killer. Shout out to Lions Den. JJ said, okay, TV. Brother Cedrick, brother, I mean, I understand you're doing your series and all that, but the title is PK Cedrick Ortega, James Cassel, debate continues. This is not the way we handle debates, sir. Back, you know, it seems like to me you running from me, brother. So,
Okay.
I mean, look, see, look, you can't even let a person speak. See, over here, this your playing field. No, see,
when you come
got
over here,
to
you
learn
need
how
to be
somewhere, Cedric,
correct.
where
The
you can't
debate
just jump
in the
in, man.
context of a discussion, it's not a debate. Didn't you hear the whole presentation? I was making
No,
a point
I
that there is no goddamn debate.
Listen, it's my turn to speak. That's where you're
No,
failing.
no, be careful,
No,
be careful.
where you're failing,
be
sir.
Be
You
careful.
do this to everybody. You know, you're not the authority of all information. Said you can be corrected just like I can.
Correct
right,
me
brother?
how? Correct
so why
me
you
how?
interrupting me? I'm a guest, right? Am I a guest over here?
First, you need to be
Am
accurate.
I a guest, sir?
This was no
just like
debate.
you got slapped up in our debate. Everybody in the community said it. You know, you complain about. Listen,
no, they did. Everybody in the community didn't say that.
Bro, you got beat up.
Yes,
you
thank you.
The only person that's saying that
JJ, you got wash on your
only
own.
person, wait a minute.
JJ saw debate.
Wait a minute.
JJ saw debate in the title and he lost.
Wait a minute. The only person that's saying that Cedric lost that debate is Sean. Sean and Cedric, I don't know. They don't get along.
Lost? Look at that.
That's the only person in the
community.
That is the only person in the community that said that. And I don't know how the house of consciousness is a leg to stand on.
Was that the young lady?
What source did he use?
She barely gave it to him too.
Hey, let his hand go.
What was the young lady's name, Joe?
Hey, let his hand go. Hey,
who was it?
All I know is JJ bugged out on her because she gave it to him, but she half-heartedly gave it to him.
Look, you don't know the art of debate. Let me tell you why you don't know. Let me tell you why they don't know.
He definitely used Columbus Diary. He definitely used Columbus Diary.
Y'all fear me. Let me speak.
Bro, you don't have the wherewithal.
No,
because
you
you're
got
supposed
dog
to
walks.
debate me. And when I
the whole
question
community said
on
you
your
got
own show, you kick me out your back chat.
We're stripping you from
and
the
you
belt,
know
bro.
Greg Phillips paid me my $100. So he know you was wrong.
What source did he use?
Your boy know you was wrong.
What source?
Pay me my $100.
What source
I got
did
my
he
money.
use?
I got my
you
money.
You
he definitely used
What are we talking about here?
No, because every time I want to debate somebody, y'all run and get somebody else because y'all think it's gonna be an easier win. So you forfeited that. No, I'm good.
Yeah, I know you're good. Now, Cedric, back to you.
Yeah, I'm good.
Can he speak for himself, or do y'all got to hold his damn hand?
No, I'm talking about me, my guy.
No, okay,
I'm talking about me.
It's okay. I deal with you later.
You got 8 up on your panel. That's why.
Would you come over today?
I'm saying gold spears. They're copper. They're not gold. It was copper spears that Bartholomew de las Casas was talking about. Ivan Van Sertiman mentioned some gold spears, and he was wrong.
Hey, listen. Listen.
Just let it go. Don't down that hill. You already on the sword.
Look, you see how they won't let me talk?
On the sword, so you twisting it, right? You got up on the panel being wild. So
come on, can we speak? Can I speak? Am I a guest? Now, ladies and gentlemen, Cedric.
No, you're not. I'm just trying to be cordial.
Yeah. I know you are because I'm the fucking ghost of this.
Don't cuss on my panel. Don't cuss on this platform.
Jeremiah, please say to y'all.
Did you hear me? Acknowledge that you heard me.
You don't have a resume like that. Here goes some more. Here goes the goddamn list. There's over 30 people out and beat up in this community.
What are we doing right now? What are we doing right now?
I don't know
what's going on.
He's out of here.
We got.
How many times I gotta tell him not to cuss? I mean, we haven't said Cedric slipped, but I'm usually the one that's wild, and I haven't cussed once. So I don't understand why y'all cannot abide by the rules. Okay, just so simple.
JJ saw debate in the title, and he lost his mind. because that
I
is the
know.
only framework in which you
Debate
can
is a
relate.
discussion,
Debate is a discussion, the
and it's a
conversation, the debate
continued discussion.
continue. Why?
James
Because
still
we
got to
had
be
one.
here.
We had one on your panel, right?
Yeah.
It went south. You made a video. You
Commercial
made a
break.
video with my name in the title, and y'all were going in. I didn't
Oh
even
God.
watch it because I did exactly what I needed to do to
Right.
put James Cassel in his place. So the conversation continues. When you had my name in the title over there, I didn't come on the panel. I didn't make no noise. I didn't do nothing. I let you have his show. You did your thing. I'm gonna look at it now because it's pure comedy. But I'll let y'all do your thing. So now that the conversation is continuing over on the Pseudo Killers platform, right? The link is in the chat. James, you can jump up, come. Okay. But I sure bet you won't. You know why? Because you the one running. Y'all look out. I'm having a conversation. JJ comes up over here to say what? That I'm running from. The link is in the panel. You came up, JJ. You see, James won't come over in this arena because this flame clamory won't go nowhere. It would get stopped, just like Courtney had to jump off the panel because I won't allow any straw manning of my position. If I continuously say it is descriptive, you're going to jump on and say, here, he just contradicted himself. He said it is prescriptive. Are you confused or are you slow? Which one is it? Or just plain out disingenuous? I don't know. I don't have the patience for the flame flammery. I'm going to cut you off. This is a different panel. You don't get to build your whole straw man, and then I need to walk all that nonsense back. No, we stay clearly. Logic is descriptive. It is our tool that describes how we see reality. Reality is what it is. It exists prior to us and it exists after us, for as far as we know. And all we doing is describing what we see. Nothing prescriptive about logic.
He didn't jump on to discuss it anyway. He went off to something else. He never even touched the topic.
Facts, Joel.
Then making all kind of presuppositional philosophical jargon to think that he's doing something. No,
Logic is not material. Like, did he hear that? We didn't say logic was material.
Like, and then it's prescriptive. Who said it was? How can a language be physical?
Right. Yeah, boy, they just be digging holes, bro. They be digging holes too deep to dig out.
The conversation is shifting to in an arena that y'all are not comfortable with. We are now delving into y'all metaphysical concepts and claims. Those are getting unlocked. So now y'all getting nervous. Now everybody in the community knows the concept of spirit. They understand it, what it's about. So you can't hit them with the flim flammery. I'm spiritual. Oh, you use your brain like every day. What are you trying to say?
I don't think folks know what they're trying to say. That's why I tried to ask Courtney to break it down what he was trying to say, and he never really did. So I think people just throw the word salads out there because they have a lot of stuff going on in their heads. It's really pretty incoherent, but they don't hear themselves. They just be talking. And so a lot of times I just want to slow it down. Okay, tell me what you mean. Try to get it out, please.
If they try to do that, Joel, what they're gonna run into is the brick wall. So what is required is that they give the whole spiel. They need to give the 15-minute spiel, right? And then you can interject. No, that's not how a conversation works, especially if you start off your first sentence by completely strawmanning the position that we have. You did it twice. First, you assume that we said logic is tangible. We're talking about a descriptive language of reality. Descriptive. It is telling us how it operates. It is not prescriptive. It does not dictate how reality operates. It is telling us how it does. Big distinction. Human law is prescriptive when we write laws. But logic is telling us how the laws of nature operate. It sounds the same, but it's fundamentally different. And if you confuse these things, we cannot have a coherent conversation. So no, you're not going to straw man us over and over. You put logic on the microscope and test it. Why? And then telling me that I'm contradicting myself. No, I'm not. They always come up and tell you what you're doing, instead of stating a clear and coherent position. Emotional rhetoric that is not grounded in nothing. I know.
Okay, I'm about to jump off, man. Enjoy y'all letting me on the panel. I got some stuff I gotta take care of. Appreciate everybody. Shout out
You
to
a
the pseudo killers.
killer. What you talking about? You're always
what? It's an honor.
Well, you know.
It's an honor, Chill. Always an honor, pleasure to have you on the panel. Appreciate it.
Facts. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the show pretty much over. Cedric, you laid it out so thoroughly, nobody can really contest it. They don't want to come on and talk about it. So it's time for part 5 now.
So with that, we go straight into commercial mode. The Deconstructing the Divine episode 3, Wednesday, right here on the Pseudo Killers channel. We're going to let you know when we go live. Stay tuned. That's episode 3. And we got some more work based on some of the debates. I've also done another presentation, but I'm going to save that for a little bit later. We get back to work in Deconstructing the Divine. I just needed to do this drive-by. I appreciate my co-host, my producer, Juju. Thank you, Joel, for checking in. Science is undefeated. Stop playing with the science.
Peace out, PK. Good job, Juju. Pseudo killer, intellectual sunstring. I'm a pseudo killer, intellectual sunstring. I'm a pseudo killer, intellectual sunstring. Who do you believe in? People bringing misinformation when that information ain't disinformation. That's disinformation. Gotta know the difference in information. Get information with the pseudo killer army hunting pseudo. Cause you gotta train your mind to fight against them pseudo judo. People with the scholarship salute, we give them kudos. But the people with that look of shit, we look and see straight through those like telescope. If you ain't speaking fast, we gotta tell them folks and let them know the truth. You bringing malinformation to blast, then you the Ku Klux. Like say, don't talk me to death, bro. What the proof of? Good juju chillin', why you wanna go way bad juju? Shalom boy got the tank in the cut. I'm in Sosa world plotting on the kick though with Kent. Come in Tiffany gave me the pseudo names on the list and said went and got the low. Anthony got him in the scope, Gullah and Gozy. Make sure DNA ain't a problem for them folks, cause a pseudo gon' die, they saw a pseudo killer. I'm a pseudo killer, intellectual sunstring. I'm a pseudo killer, intellectual sunstring.